start? What's that? We stand upon their shoulders. We stand upon those pastors who've gone before. We stand upon the shoulders of pastors who didn't have it as easy as we do. This week, we're going to have 6 sketches. But before I get to the first sketch, I want to just note a little prayer. Thank you, Lord, that I'm not a Gentile. Thank you, Lord, that I'm not a slave. Thank you, Lord, that I'm not a woman. That was the prayer of every Hebrew male every day. And Paul's great statement at the climax of his gospel of salvation is in Galatians 3. For you are all children of God through faith. There is neither Jew nor Gentile. There is neither slave nor free. There is neither male nor female. And with that text, Paul set the social agenda of the Adventist Church for the next 2,000 years. The first was started in Paul's day, to equalize the role and place of Jew and Gentile in the church. The big battle that climaxed 2 centuries ago between slave and free, and the last to be conquered is that between male and female, which we're still going through today. Pastor number 1 is Sarah Ann Lindsay. We've got the wrong picture there. Sarah Ann Lindsay, the first licensed female preacher, raised as a Seventh-day Baptist, became a Seventh-day Adventist in 1857. 3 years later, she reads an article in the Review about females becoming active. And she writes and she says, how can that be? Can you rationalize when Paul says, don't let a woman speak, but make sure they speak? She married a young pastor, lay pastor. Next big turning point in her life came when the conference began to fall apart with apostasy and other problems, and she teamed up with her husband, the conference president, the very talented Nathan Fuller, and they went out to preach in this conference. And then Nathan, 6 months later, one of our greatest pastors, fell with adultery and theft of church monies. And at that point, Sarah became the foremost preacher that rescued that conference. She preached with might and power in spite of adversity in a conference that was plagued and falling basically apart. For 10 years, she would become basically the leader in southern New York and northern Pennsylvania. That was 1869, and the decade after, 1871, she's given a license, the first licensed female preacher in Adventist history. Sarah Ann, we'll get a picture of her tomorrow, I hope. Sarah Ann Lindsay. And I've got to hand it to her husband. Her husband was a talented preacher, but she was more talented, and he had enough brains to know it. It takes a real man to let your wife outshine you in public. We stand on the shoulders of John Lindsay, a man who combined with his wife to have an effective ministry. We stand on the shoulders of Sarah Lindsay, first female licensed preacher in this denomination, a woman who stood in a very, very difficult situation and succeeded. We today, as pastors in 2022, stand on the shoulder of those who have gone before.